Good day, guys, and welcome to another session of automating your business processes through an ERP solution. Today, we are going to be looking at the operational aspect of our fixed assets, and we are going to take ERPNext as a case scenario. So, just like me explaining to you that how to use your ERPNext to automate your fixed assets operations within an organization. So, like I've always said before, it is important for you to make sure that you have understanding of the manual process before you think about automating the process. So regardless of whatever process you want to do, make sure you have a full understanding of the manual process before going into the automation. So in part of these processes, we are going to be looking at asset procurement, asset depreciation, then other asset transactions. We'll touch on them. First, like we understand what purchase is, it is you having an agreement with a third party, your suppliers, that is your suppliers, explaining to them that you need a particular product and they deliver to you and all that. So it's just the same way you want to buy an asset. Let's say, for instance, you want to buy furniture for the office, and you need to also keep this operation automated. Having your ERPNext do this for you. Let's go into it. So I'm going to be going into the aspect of procuring the asset, which is purchasing the asset. So purchase of asset, it's either we start from the procurement level, whereby from the beginning, so ERPNext can handle hand-to-hand processes where there will be a requisition that is made, then the requisition is then being approved through the workflow process. After the approval, then you send out your purchase order. When the product is being delivered, you convert it to purchase to a sales purchase invoice, and as well as purchase receipt. So those procurement, but we are going to skip some of those processes. We are going to skip that, but some of our videos have already explained that, so you might want to go back to some videos that explain that. So specifically, we are going to start from the aspect of purchasing the asset. So it's more like you talking about purchase invoice on an asset. So let's go into it. Before you can talk about an asset, I want to believe that you all understand what an asset is. So I shouldn't be explaining that to you. I've told you earlier that it is important for you to make sure that you have full understanding about the manual process before coming into the system to do that. You can get somebody to teach you, explain that to you on some of these processes. And so if we are to implement for you, what we try to do is to give you a first insight of the manual process, then letting you understand how a manual process should work before then integrating with the process. So at that point in time, we would have to accommodate the manual process alongside with your specific process, then merge it with or infuse it with the ERP system. So going forward, so you just click on, so you search for purchase invoice, which is under accounting, then you click on add purchase invoice. Now, before you do your purchase invoice, there are some prerequisites which I need to tell you. So there are some setups which is done at the back end. This setups does not really concern you, so it's better to go with a certified consultant or a specialist to be able to do that setup for you. And I'll show you some of the setups that are involved at the back end. So one of the setup is you need to create an item which is more like a service item. Then this might be done just once, so there could be different strategies to creating these items for your fixed asset process. So some of the strategies could be that you want to recognize only, what's it called, you want to recognize only the group of assets. So at the point in time whereby you need to purchase an item, an asset, it will definitely ask you for an item, so which is what we're going to see along this side. We're going to see, so it's asking you for the item. So the item could now be let's say, depending on how your process is. So let's say when you want to purchase you say laptop, definitely you have specifications on those laptops. Yes, so you just write laptop. At that point in time, the person handling it is different from the person procuring the asset, is different from the asset manager. So the asset manager keeps his list of assets, you understand, which will then be infused. So those are the things we are going to look at. So how does the procurement officer raise his asset, then infuse it with the asset manager's register as well? So so you have to create an item called, maybe based on the group of assets or the item description itself. For instance, you might want to have a laptop, but as at this point you don't need to be specific on the type of laptop and all that. You might not be interested in that, but you have to create, you might want to create laptops. So instead of you having office equipment, as generalizing those things, you could have laptops, you could have what's it called, maybe laptop stands, printers, and all those things. So you are creating them based on an item, the item they belong to. But when it comes to the asset register, it now becomes a different ball game. So registering the asset will only point to these items you have created, but the asset register does not see this as the asset itself. So this is just an item that reference an asset. So that's what I'm trying to explain here. Then another thing that you need to create or make sure that you have is asset categories. Yes, so after you have the item, you need to have asset categories. So based on your ledger account, so another thing I missed out is ledger account. You have to have your ledger account also enabled. At this point in time, you'll be having let's say, let me close this, for instance. Just go to chart of account. Go to chart of account. So let's look at these. So based on the categories of the assets and the accounting standard of recording asset transactions, you would see that at this point you will say fixed asset for electronics equipment, its accumulated depreciation. The same thing with furniture and fittings. It has, so all that now has been created under the fixed asset cost account. Then as well, fixed asset accounting type that has been created. Then also the same thing too, you must have a depreciation expense account, which would also, if you feel like you want to split them by category, it's fine, but most times it's just one account that does that. So let's look at these, for instance. Okay, so look at these, for instance. You can see depreciation. as a different account on its own. So which means all expenses, depreciation that you do every month goes into this ledger account. So I think there is also um, income realized from asset sales or scrap value like that is also involved. So you must understand all this first. All this has been set up already. Then coming down, okay, so we create that first, which is the GL account. Then we go to the asset category. So on the asset categories, you will see that on the asset categories, um, this is where you now define the categories of all your assets. Okay, there's something I will also show you on the item. So let me just go to. So you need to specify the categories of assets. So you have plant and machinery, office equipment. So this most time it will be in the same line with whatever is on your ledger account. So, but let me just pick one of them so that you can see. So at this point, you would see that the depreciation method is chosen here, linked to the assets category. We also have the useful life, which is also in months. So then the frequency of depreciation for each month. So it is just once in every month that is there. So we have that. Then you also, then this is where you specify the GL account. You have created the ledger account. You know the system is a multi company, so you could have various companies, could have various call centers on it, but you need to specify that which GL account, when this particular asset is being depreciated or a transaction is being done on this asset, which GL account should be updated. So this is it. So the company is trading, the fixed asset account is this, the accumulated depreciation account is this, the depreciation expense account is this. So this just the basic. Then you click on save and that's all. So that is how asset category is. So let me go back to assets. So you don't need to do this because this has been predefined for you by your specialist or your consultant. So let me look at item list so that I can show you some of the item list. So at points of creating the item that becomes a drop down for you when you need to procure an asset, or when you are setting up your creating registering your asset, you would see something here called is fixed asset. So let me close this and try to create one. Let's assume I'm creating a new asset. I don't wish to use the asset group as the name, as the asset item. So what I want to do is I just want to make sure that all assets are well represented as an item on the system. Now, when you are creating that, so let's say asset I'm using here is just an example, is laptop. Like I said, you might not need to create this again. So I can just generalize it saying a laptop, for instance. I can just create a laptop. Laptop. Just generalizing. So this is the code. It depends on the code, but you want to use. You might have what's it called? Maybe you have a sequence of numbering your items. So you go through a sequential order to code your items. So this is it. Then you would select an item group. So there's an item group created already that is called assets. So there's a fixed asset. What else? You know, this is not an ordinary item. So what else? So you just come here. If you come here, you need to specify that this item you are creating is for fixed asset. Then you take this. So like I said, this will be done just once. So this is just done once. At the point whereby you need to start picking your item, you will see that this is available for you to pick. So laptop, anytime you are creating laptop, any laptop, Dell laptop and all that, this becomes a drop down for you. Then here I can say auto create assets on purchase. What does this mean? It means that you want the system to automatically create or add when you make a purchase on that asset. When you complete a purchase, you should automatically create it in the asset register. Yeah, but it will only create it waiting for asset manager to complete the form. So it creates maybe with the cost and all that, but at the same time it's not going to complete that transaction for you, just giving you a predefined form where you can then complete it, drop down there. But if you don't make it auto create, it means that the asset manager will just have to create that manually, but referencing it to the document that was raised. We are going to look at the two, for instance. So for this purpose, I'm not going to tick this for this hand first. So I'm going to create two. One is going to have auto create, while the other one is not going to have auto create. So this is just fixed asset, but it is important for you to have its fixed asset. Then I come here, asset category. So asset category must have been defined. So laptop, let's say office equipment. So what else do we have here to create? So all things being equal, I click on save, which means I'm done with my asset. So I may want to create another asset. Now, one thing about this is when you raise a purchase order, a workflow can be defined on it. So every process that you do within the ERPNext allows you to create a workflow for it. So this workflow could have some kind of authorization. So it sends notification to those that are involved. From there, they make an action on it. They want to approve it or reject it or whatever that is based on that workflow is being defined there. So that's side. So for me to create another asset, let me create another asset. And I'll create this. Remember, all these here are just items. This is also an item, This is as well as an item. I told you the reason why I did this like this, maybe because I want to group, I want all my items to follow the grouping pattern. You understand? So any point in time whereby they need to purchase anything, the item that will drop down, it's either office equipment or plant and machineries and that. So I have plant and machinery here. So let's go on and say add another item. So this time around, this is just a quick entry, but I don't want to use a quick entry. You can actually use a quick entry for your operation, but I want a full form whereby I can have details of everything. If you have your quick entry, your quick entry might not be able to give you all the things that is actually required. So I'll use this. Let's say this is pumping machine. So like I told you, this becomes, let me just pump, then just let me do it like this. This is a code that gives you opportunity to give a sequence of how your items is being. So I'll do this as pumping machine. You understand? So I do this as pumping machine. The group is as well what? Fixed asset. Then I'll take this as is fixed asset. So you notice that immediately I take this as is fixed asset, some things were disabled. So asset is not a stock, so you don't need to maintain stock on assets. So that's why all those things were disabled and all that. So this fixed asset, then auto create. So the other one we didn't tick auto create, right? So this we are going to tick auto create. So or creates grouped assets. So we don't need this as well. So this, it creates another group of assets, but we don't need that. So I'll say I'll select the group that this asset belongs to. So pumping machine is, let's say, plant and machinery. Now, because you are telling the system that it should auto create an asset for you, it means that it needs a naming series. How do you want the system to name the distance? So because when you are creating the asset itself, it will definitely ask you for some of these things. So, and you want the system to automatically create it. So automatically creating it, then definitely it will ask for asset naming series, so that it can look at the sequentials of how you have set the system up, so that it can also number your asset. So if I click this, I'll click this for instance, then what else? I think that's just the only thing. When I'm done, I click on save. So that is that. So created two items. One is pumping machine, and the other one is a laptop, and they are both assets. One is, the only difference between them is that one would automatically create an asset register on purchase of asset, while the other one would not automatically create an asset register. So I think that's all on that. That's all. What else do we need to do? Now, this is when we now need to go to the aspect of purchase invoice. So we need to raise a purchase invoice. Remember, you have made the asset, you have made the item an asset. So the same is not expecting you to be worried about quantity. So so using the naming series here, this is, most of these are predefined. Then you need to, let's assume I don't want to use this date, I want a past day. Now I would no, so the first thing we want to do, okay, yeah, we'll pick one of the item. Let's say this is October, maybe the item was purchased in, this was when it was purchased. So this is for us to tick, indicate if the supply, if we are paying the supplier immediately. You are paying the supplier immediately, you can tick this, and the system will allow you to pick the payment this day. Or if you are not, you just leave it as it is, then it's the supplier. So the supplier must have been created on the system. So let's pick one of those suppliers. Let's say I'm picking the supplier. Then we don't want to use live transaction, so we are going to remove that. Then we are using the training platform. Then what else? So we need to pick an item. We don't need to update stock, so we do it. So warehouse is not needed at that point in time. So which assets? We are picking the laptop first. Laptop does not have auto create, so we are picking the laptop first. So one, and how much is this laptop? Let's say this laptop is for 650,000 naira. So what happens here? If I wish to indicate that the money was paid immediately, I can do that. Did I just do that? So I'll just tick this. Money was paid. So immediately I tick this, you will see that the due date was removed. So I'll tick this for instance, but the system will tell me that I need to make payment. To record the payment, definitely you that have said that it's paid, so you need to have record of that. So I can click on save, then the system will throw up an error. Yeah, so I need to also indicate that. So I need to click this tab, payment. also indicate how the payment was made. So mode of payment has been created. We created so many mode of payment here, and at the same time we created the banks as mode of payment as well, because we had to integrate some ledger accounts into it. Now, like I would always tell people, so it depends on the operation of the client. It depends on what the client actually needs in terms of process. It doesn't really mean mode of payment should be the mode of payment. You understand? So you could have different reasons for creating mode of payment. Mode of payment, like we all know, is cash, the wire transfer, and all that. You understand? But because this ERPNext has a functionality whereby we can integrate a GL account to it, we don't want the customers or our clients to pick the GL account, as long as, especially at user end, users don't, they only know, most times they only know what they are working with, so they may not understand what is going on the back end. For instance, they don't, a procurement officer might not worry himself with the GL account. He just want to record the payment that was made and all that. So for instance, this particular that was paid through EcoBank. Let me use EcoBank. So automatically choosing EcoBank is going to bring out the GL accounts there. Although this can be changed, but if it is, we are going to set it up or restrict some things on it, we can actually make this a read only, so that it's not available to everyone to modify. Then at this point, I can now specify how much the client is paying. If the client is paying a full amount, fine. But if the client is just paying part of the invoice details, then I can just write that. But in this case, I'm going to write how much if the customer is paying, or the client is, I'm paying this client. I can say 650,000. Yeah, so I pick 650,000 here. So looking at the details here, just to confirm, so it means I'm making full payment. That's what it means. So I click on save. So I click on save here. So I click on save, then submit. So another thing you need to take note of is that the date is going to record in your transactions also will be the same date. So they all use the same. So the system is doing two things at the same time. It's generating a supplier's invoice, and at the same time it's generating a supplier payment. Yes, that's what it means it's going to do at this point. So I can click on submit, then yes. So this is done. You can see that this particular invoice has been paid for. You understand? So this has been paid for. If you come down here, scroll down here, so you will see that you can't see payment again. You can't see payment again. Why is it that you can't see payment again? You can't see anything relating to payment again from here. Why? It's because payment has already been made on this supplier's invoice. So we can decide to check the ledger accounting ledgers, to see the entries that were done on that same transaction. You will see that you can see the creditors control account is in and out because that payment has been made. On that, you can see it was paid out of this bank on the same document. So that's aside, that clears it out. Moving on, we've made payments on that. That's good to go. Let's see what else. Okay, so that is done already. You can decide to print whatever document you need. So we've done one aspect of it. So let's go to our asset to see. So let's check asset to see if that was dropped. So if you look at this now, if you look at these were the ones that were there here before. This was done 4 weeks ago, or this was done 4 weeks ago. So there is no recent details on this. Look at what the system has done. Only so this is not updated. As in, this is your fixed asset register. So there is no new thing here. So let's do the other aspect. So I'll come back here. Then add purchase invoice. I want you to also take note of this invoice number. So this is what we are going to be using when we need to register our asset. So that is done. Now let's create the other. Let's do another one. So this time around we are doing for the pumping machine. So I'm going to edit this date and pick let's say October here 11. Sorry, there's something I missed out. Remember, let's see something. Okay, so remember what you have only done is to raise an invoice, but because the system has a process of also having to what's it called, have a process to actually show that the product was delivered, this particular item has been delivered. So you need to also do this. That is, I can create this and say purchase receipt, which means that the product was delivered to me and I received it. So I can definitely raise a purchase receipt. But if your process does not involve you recording your purchase receipt, then you will leave it. But I think it's a good feature within the system. So before that, let me go back. I want to see the date it was purchased. So it was purchased on 20th of October. I want you to take note of this thing, 20th of October. So if I come down here and say purchase receipt, I want to make a purchase receipt on 2023. Okay, so this time around, let's say it was September, October, 20th of October. Let's say I made the purchase here, I made the purchase on this date, and I made the payment here that same day. Then it was delivered for me on the 25th. You understand? So that was when I received it. I'm driving at something, so that's why I came back here to do this thing. So I'm driving at something. This is the company, so everything. So you can now, if it was delivered with a delivery note, you can have that. If it has a truck number, you can also include that. What else? I think that's all. That's all. So one laptop was delivered, and this is the value. Then this does not affect the ledger account. Why? Because this is more like a service. So, but if it was a stock item, definitely it would affect our stock item. So let's save this. Then I submit. What is there again? Okay, that's for inspection. If you wish you to have inspection on it, then I click on save. Yes, I submit it. Yes, asset not created. Yeah, I was supposed to show asset not created for laptop. You will have to create the asset manually. So that was what I was explaining to you here, that it wasn't created because we did not enable it to drop down. Why it's going to be a different ball game when we want to do the pumping machine. So this is completed. So this particular activity has been completed. So if we go back to our purchase invoice now, you would see that our purchase invoice would not have receipt again, I believe. Yeah, so you can see that the receipt is no longer there. So this is just a way of recording that every process is being captured within the ERPNext. So that's aside. Now let's go back to the other aspect. You still remember what we are trying to do is to capture purchase of an asset. So let's still go on. Oh, sorry. Let's still go on that. So I'm going to create an asset. I'm going to create another purchase invoice now. I'm going to raise another purchase invoice, and this time around, this purchase invoice will be instead of October, let me say September. This time around, let's just make the same date here, but just for you to understand. So the same thing to this time around, let's say I don't want to use the same supplier. Let's say I'm using this for supplier, and this we are under training. Sorry, clicked. I set the system to jump into that. So I'm training, so I'm using training this now. So I don't want to just start going to, so I'm making payments immediately on this. I'm making payment, it's paid for, and it's not a stock item. I'm picking. So this time around, it's not going to be a laptop, but a pumping machine that we have created. Let's say this is a pumping machine. So it's a pumping machine now. Let's say our pumping machine is 700,000. I don't know. Let's say 700,000. Oh, sorry. This is one. I purchased one. Then 700,000. Right. So I purchased an asset which is the 700,000. And what else? I'll just save this now. Let me save these. All things being equal, that's all. Save this. Okay, so it's asking me to make payments again on that since so this time around I may decide to use another let me say EcoBank for instance. Maybe it was EcoBank I used at that time, I don't know. So this now I'll pick 700,000. I'm making full amount. If you are not making full amount on that, you can as well do that. Then I say save. So the system has recorded that as well. Okay, so submit it. Yes. So let's see this and refresh this. Okay, let's see. So it's supposed to drop down that for us, but let's move on. Okay, let's see. Purchase receipts. Okay, so let me use purchase receipt. So I'm not done. Okay, so I'll click purchase receipts now. That the item was actually delivered. So this is September. That was 20. But let's do. I want to believe it was. Let's go back again. Purchase invoice. Yeah, so September. Create the purchase receipt. To September 2023. Then I say let's say it was received it on this date. Then what else? If you have a delivery note and all that, you can include it there. So this is it. To click on save. Then I submit. Yes, so watch what the system would do here. Location for the asset item. So there should be a location. It's requesting for a location. Let me click this. So because it's one of the prerequisites that is actually needed, so it's asking for a location. So I'll pick a location, and so all I just did was, you understand, I just stay on the purchase receipt, click the purchase receipt, then the item, then pick. So which means you must have location. Another thing that is important is that you need to have location also where the asset is located. You need to have that enabled on the system. Then we click on save, because the system was trying to create what's it called, an asset on that. So I can click on submit, then yes, click on submit, yes, then you can see that assets ACC whatever created for pump mark. So which means that if I come here and refresh this page, I should see pump mark. You can see, so it means that this has been created for you, so which is actually different from the other process. So this is just how to create a purchase order on ERPNext. So you create a purchase order on ERPNext and it will automatically be updated on your assets register. So you can watch the next video whereby it talked about how to depreciate an asset. So we are going to be using this same scenario to complete the video. So this is more of the first part of the video. So the next one will be the second part of the video. So thank you and thumbs up.